بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه بجهدهم قام هذا الدين ونعوذ بالله من أعداء الدين والذين يريدون ويقصدون شرا لنا ولا يحبون الخير لنا فأنت عليهم يا مولانا ونحن نعوذ بك من شرهم. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala gives us the example in the Quran of the prophets as being models of transformation for society. And we find in particular in the example of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that he addressed the people that was broken. He addressed the people that was broken and in need of a transformation, a people that was full of corruption. And through his guidance and mentorship, he was able to transform that people because they believed in him. And because they were willing to take up the challenge to transform themselves. And there is a reality that needs to be addressed, which will take place in other series. But we want to talk about at this point the issue of transformation and the reality that we want to address in other series. If we want to look at the concept of transformation in the Muslim American community, how it was taken on in generations past. But what we see right now is that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has given us in the example of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam a sense of hope and transformation. So when we look at urban youth, the issue is, do we have that sense of supporting that transformative process? We have to understand that in many urban environments, we have environments which are dehumanizing. And so as educators and as social workers and as peace officers, civil servants, and so on and so forth, parents and elders, there is a concern with the direction of the youth. But many times was not brought to the table is the necessity for cognitively restructuring the way that we think about the youth and the youth think about life. And that involves understanding the trauma that many of the youth have experienced in these urban environments and within the context of their own families. And so we begin to see that when we mentor the youth and we open up to the conversation that they bring to us, we begin to see anger and we begin to see aggression and we begin to see a series of emotional responses which are rooted in certain situations which trigger these responses at many times which are socially destructive and self-destructive. They're socially destructive and self-destructive emotions which are triggered because of the experiences that many people have. In particular the youth, the things that they see. And this is an issue that we find in the community, which a lot of times is not addressed. The issue of experiencing traumatic situations which shape our responses to life and impede our ability to grow beyond the certain limitation which is before us. And that limitation may be that we may struggle with anger, or that may be a situation in which we struggle with wanting to love or show affection or trust. There's a series of realities which need to be unpacked and discussed. But we have to focus on cognitively restructuring the thinking of the youth so that it is productive to society and productive to themselves, and not be scared to point to the youth a direction which will lead them out of these environments which are toxic and relationships which are toxic in reality when people don't want to get help. People can sit in toxic relationships, but as long as they want to get help, that situation can be transformed. But the problem comes when people are resistant to addressing the toxicity. You can't escape the reality that people have problems in life. We come from a society in which the family structure is broken, so there is a built-in dysfunctionality into the way that people interact with one another. But when we don't want to admit that we need help, that we need support, that we need mental help, and we need aid, and we need the ability to be able to develop the capacity to develop within ourselves to trust others, when we want to deny that as a reality, then we have issues. We have to be able to accept the help of others, to be able to trust, to be able to begin to work on our issues, right? But to abandon our relationships with people, whatever those type of relationships are, just because there's tension and struggle and so on and so forth, it shows that there is an unwillingness to want to deal with the issues. And sometimes we have to take the tough love approach. Sometimes we do have to pull back so that the person that we're dealing with come to some realization that we can't be in a situation where we're supporting dysfunctionality, where they have to confront themselves so that they say, I need help, right? So that they say that I need help. But the youth, many times, what they're needing is for someone to listen to them so that they begin to open up and they begin to trust and they begin to learn how to reconstruct their thinking so they can be able to receive help at a higher level and to be able to transform themselves. So we have to pay attention to the thinking of the youth, why it is that they're engaging in self-destructive activities and antisocial activities, right? And we're talking about youth, especially in urban societies, in urban environments. And we begin to see that there is a necessity for just someone to listen. Be that person that listens. Be that person that's compassionate. And be that person that is informed as to what resources are out there to help people that are hurting and broken. But don't be the one that tries to break others. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.